Hi everybody, my name is Sherry. Welcome to my stamp studio. I filmed this card earlier and I forgot to tell you it's a part of a little bit of a series. So I'm going to do a series on stamping with kids. So your definition of kids is whoever stamps with you that age, and you can kind of gear these up or down a little bit. So at my in-person event, I have a stamp camp every month. I've been doing it for 26, 27 years. And we've only missed a couple. We missed one, I think, during COVID. But we had a couple of teenagers that were able to join us. So when I designed the projects, I kept them summary. I kept them so they all had a little bit of something fun to them. So there was a wow factor in most of them. But easier. So if you stamp with kids, and most of the ones, like the one I'm going to do now, any age child could do it. It does have heat embossing, so you would want to use the heat tool depending on how old they are. So for the next 4 projects, they are all, we'll call it summer camp, because it was my summer camp, but also if you're doing something camp-wise with your kids. So I'm going to use On the Ocean. It is a bundle. You can get the matching coordinating dies. I'm not using the dies because, again, kids. So I kept the die cutting fairly minimal for this camp so it would move along, because I didn't want anybody to be stressed. You know, you want stamping to be fun. So I'm going to use On the Ocean. I've had it for a long time, and this was the first time that I had inked with it. It's a super cute set. So we are going to do all of our stamping on a small piece of Very Vanilla. And I did it so this card could be for guys or girls, just whoever you need to give it to, it will be appropriate for it. So let's, super simple. You're going to be like, oh, this card is simple, but it does have a little bit of a wow factor. So we have the Waves of the Ocean. I'm doing those in boho blue, which is the color of cardstock that I'm using. I don't want it to fade. I want all of the water to look the same. So I'm going to ink it up every time that I stamp with it. Don't you love a brand new stamp pad that's super juicy? Get a little bit right there. And then let's go over here and get a little bit. It's going to go right off the edge onto my table. So there's our boho blue, our water. It's, again, super juicy. I love that. Then let's do our ship and pebbled path. So we do have some new colors on here. If you don't have these colors, you'll want to get them. Pebbled Path is my favorite. I love Pebbled Path. So let's just stick your ship in here. It doesn't matter. As you can see, these things could all be a little bit crooked because nothing on it needs to be straight. Pebbled Path does dry a little bit lighter than what it originally stamps. Then let's do our clouds in Pool Party, which is normally kind of a watercolor, as color of water, not watercoloring. But I was keeping it blues. Cloud there. Let's do a cloud, maybe just across the top. And we'll get another one over here. And again, see, the placement doesn't matter. You just tell kids stamp 3 clouds. These girls that were here, they didn't need that much assistance because, like I said, they were teenagers. But this, obviously, any child could stamp this. Now, here's a little tip for you if you are stamping with kids or anybody, even newer stampers. Brand new colors, as you just saw with the boho blue, super juicy. And when you stamp words or tiny stamps with them, they sink down into that pad, and you often end up with more ink on your edges of your block than you do on this, and it's so easy to catch edges. So we're using Peacock on this tiny little skull and bones. So by inking up an ink spot, which you just get those empty and then you fill them up, it will kind of keep the ink controlled. So on the tiny thing, I didn't catch it anywhere. And then also the same thing with words. So here's the boho blue. It's going to be our background, and you can see I cut this a different way, just partly because we had was trying to just do some different stuff. And sometimes it's fun to have a card that opens up and down. It's a little bit unexpected. So it's just a half a sheet of cardstock cut the other way. And then I have the words. Maybe I have them. Here they are. And again, if you stamp these fine words into a mushy pad, it can often be a mess. Even for new adult stampers, that happens because we just feel like we need a lot of ink. But when you put it on an ink spot, not only is there less ink, but these are the linen, like our old pads used to be, and they don't sink down in it quite as much. It just is a good way anytime you're stamping with new stampers. Put this down here in the corner. Hoping this year is full of adventure and excitement. So it can be graduation, it could be a birthday, it could be start of college. There's lots of things it could be. And then we have one more thing to put on here. I love this color combination. This is Lost Lagoon. And a lot of them could be swapped. Like the pool party could be the water, the Lost Lagoon could be the clouds, because these colors are all kind of, they mix really well, but I went with it for the birds just to kind of give it the same color scheme as what we had going. And again, you can see I'm stamping off because I like to have that little bit of off in the distance. But you want to make sure when you stamp off that you don't half on a paper, half off. Otherwise, when it stamps on there, it's going to be two shades. So now I'm going to do a little bit of folders, because folders are wow factors and they're so easy. It's not cutting, there's nothing dangerous, they just roll it through. So I'm gonna do a piece of crumb cake in the rope, and then I'm going to do this this piece. I always forget the name of this. I feel like it should be, I don't know. It'll be down underneath the video which folder this is, but it's perfect for this. If you have any of the ones that just add texture, that's what you're doing to this. You just want to get some texture on here. All right, so here's this through the rope, and then here's this through the one that I don't remember what it's called, the texture. And here's our little bit of wow factor. The other thing for these cards is sometimes in the summer, we're so busy with all of the outdoor things and barbecues and cookouts and vacations that you need a card, but you don't necessarily want to spend as much time as you might in the winter when there's nothing else outside to do. So cards like this, and this is definitely not a kid's card as far as the ability, because it's got this is gonna like take it up a notch. You could stop here and you could be done, but this is what makes it a wow card. So this is my Versamark. You want to make sure that your ink, especially that boho blue, if you're not running it through the embossing folder, was all the way dry before you did that. Otherwise the ink will go on here. So I'm just going to cover this in some Versamark. So you can see it kind of gave it an old world feel, painting, wave. Any of those kind of folders would work on this. And then this is clear embossing powder. And I'm just going to cover the whole entire thing with the clear. And you know, you just put that right back into your container. And then I'm going to grab my tweezers out of the embossing additions kit, which is also where I got the tray. And then just shake that off. So now you can see it's completely covered in powder. Get my heat tool. It's better for this if you let it heat up a second. So I'm going to let it heat up. And then once it's warm, just kind of put it in one corner. And as you see it melts, it will go glassy, watery, old world. See it? It'll be bumpy and not everywhere gets the powder because of the folder, which is the look we're going for. We didn't want it to be like a sheet of glass. It amplifies all those colors so they're a little bit brighter. You can see how those birds are really starting to pop. See these birds here? Now watch. And those are really faint birds because that's where I stamped off. But it just makes them really bright and pretty. That's all done. You just want to give it a quick whirl around in the light. Now, the other reason that this is great for newer stampers, teenage stampers, and you can do it, I think around 4th grade for girls who are paying attention is a good age to kind of start letting them play with the embossing tool. But the other thing that happens with this is, for example, if I had stamped this and in Versamark and then tried to do it maybe in gold, which would be beautiful on this card, but a new stamper, if you don't heat it all the way, and you could do hoping this, and you know, your might not be all the way melted and it brushes off. This, if you don't get everywhere, it doesn't matter because it'll brush off, and whatever brushes off will just be paper because we use the clear. So let's put this together now. I'm gonna put this onto my row piece. You can really see that texture on the other side. Just kind of center this in. And then we did a fun thing with our ribbon, well, our twine, so, or this actually linen thread. Take your thread. I want it on this side. I always have to, when I flip them over, I have to remember I'm doing it on the correct side. I want my ends to be here. So I'm gonna wrap it around 3 times. 1, 2, 3. And then when you get to the back, just stick it again in there. But we're not done. We're gonna go ahead and put it on the front of our card, and then we'll finish the ribbon. This is especially good for men's cards, if you don't want a bow, and for those of you that don't like to tie bows, because we're gonna get a knot on there. And then that is gonna be right here, so I wanna make sure that it stays. This color's fun, very, very oceany. Then, oh, I don't have very much left. Perfect amount to finish this off. So you're gonna take this, and you know it's stuck on the back, and it's stuck to the card on the back. Just slide this under, because it was on the spool there, it's kind of circling. And then we're just gonna tie a knot here. Actually, I have enough to do it twice. So just slide that under, and then you're gonna tie your knot. This will grab all of these together. It will look like people will think maybe you tied a bow and cut it up, but it's just a fun little way to get easy ribbon on your card or twine. Of course, I have a tiny piece now that I doubled it over. Let's pull that through. There we go. Just give that a good tight pull. It looks, again, nautical. And then I'm just gonna trim it. So we have that down on there. And then for my embellishments, I went with the opaque ovals. And I'm pretty sure those are boho blue, but because they kind of look like rocks. So it'll give us some fun texture on here, whoops. Without making it look like we put rhinestones or anything on our card. That way you can keep this over in your little box of cards. And when you need it, you know, your husband comes home and says, my boss's birthday is this week, do you have a card? It doesn't matter if his boss is a man or a woman because this can be for anybody. It's just a fun little card. So I hope you can see in the camera how just adding that little wow factor. Now I do want to show you something on the original. Oops, nope, we're not finished. I think it needs some water spray. And this is fun to do with kids. It does not hurt your blends. We do it in my in-person events all the time. I do it all the time. In fact, this is a Misty Moonlight blend from when we had Misty Moonlight the first time. It's not even a new one. So if you have older blends, you can put those aside to always do this if you're worried about it. But I just want a little bit of water spray. And because it is alcohol based, any place that gets here on the actual embossing will be fine. And I'm just kind of trying to keep it there. So it works better when you do this if you kind of just whack it. Instead of little taps, you need to whack it. But this blend is several years old now. I don't even remember when Misty Moonlight was a color the first time. So here you go. 2 easy cards. I was going to tell you, so, oh, this one I did, you know, if you, especially if you're a demonstrator, or if, I think it happens to all of us, you have clear powder. This was a new one. But you know, sometimes you put it in your tray and there was residuals of another color, gold or black or silver or something, and you didn't see it, but you swipe it back in there, and then on the top of your embossing powder, like there, it looks sturdy. Well, this one, I did use that. This is the one, when I see that that's happening, I stop, and I have one of these that I put an X on, and I just keep using that one then to fill back up my clear. So this had a bunch of black in it. It actually looks really nice on this card. I don't think you could replicate it, but when that happens, just kind of pull it aside. Otherwise, the cards are exactly the same. I mean, the stamping is always going to be a little bit different. So visit my website. You can see some up close pictures. You can join my email list. You can find out what my free gifts with purchase are this month. So everybody have a great week, and I'll catch you back here later with another kids project. Bye.